everybody to our July monthly CCBA meeting. We have a great agenda packed for today, so we're going to get started. I always sort of start the meeting by welcoming all our new members to the CCBA. So if you are a new member, you're probably muted, but that's okay. You could identify yourself in the question and answer so we could say hello to everybody. So far in 2020, we're up to 145 new members. So that's really incredible given the circumstances we're existing in. And you know, we like to think we're experienced, we like to think we're helpful, and we like to think we're fun. And sort of as president, I really am trying to promote programs in education to really promote sustainable beekeeping. You know, I really think that everyone should buy bees once and not need to buy bees again, and really learn how to have fun and keep healthy and happy bees. So again, welcome everybody. If you are at your first meeting, please just identify yourself in the question and answer, and Mark will greet you.
So Adriana and Alex Farron are new members here, as well as Bill Scott's first meeting.
Welcome and welcome. Don't be shy, you know, there's no need to be shy here. So again, we're grateful. I want to get to know, I feel like there's so many members that have joined this year that we haven't got to know well because of the circumstances, but you know, we'll get through it. Here's the agenda for tonight. We're going to start off with the bee gurus. Tonight we have Keith Jardine and Merle Stone, two immediate past presidents of the CCBA, who will be answering any timely questions that you have. We'll move into a brief officer report. We have Isaac, who is here. He's out in, I believe, San Francisco, California, and he's going to be talking about Mite-A-Thon. We're going to go to our own Paul and his infamous Cowboy beekeeping and what am I doing with my bees this month. We have one of our own, Ann Spelling, who's going to be talking about what she does with all the honey. I'm sure all of us have some honey that we've harvested, or and now we're trying to think, well, what do I do with it all? And then we're going to wrap up just sort of talking a little bit about what's planned for the summer. And we are, again, trying to do as much education and programs, even though we're having to cancel some of the large social activities. So that will be the meeting agenda. So I love this section because I get to learn a lot myself. So I'm going to turn it over to Keith and Merle, who will be fielding questions for about 20 minutes. So if you have questions, put them into the question and answer, and Paul will be looking at them and moderating the discussion. Thanks, Merle and Keith.
Okay, we have a question from Howard, and he's concerned about his booming hives, and he wants to know if you're doing anything special with them. He took 20 frames out of his biggest hive and put them into nuke boxes, or added them to weaker nukes. So he's concerned about the population of bees, not the honey. Any other things to do, gurus?
Mel, do you want to take this, or shall I take it?
Oh, go ahead, Keith.
Okay, your big hives, these are the ones that have built up the numbers. Your nectar is slowing down. We're probably at about 1/4 of the nectar inflow as what it was a month ago. So we're still getting honey coming in. We're still extracting, but thank goodness it's slowed down. You have these big hives, and depends on the moisture content, how much rain we have, as to how much further nectar they'll collect. Less rain, less nectar, and we might have a dearth coming up if there's no rainfall. Okay, so what do you do with them? You can exactly what Howard said. You could split them off. What I do as well with that is, if I've got spare frames. Now, this is the time of the year that the wax moth and the beetles go crazy. So what I would do is put some of those frames onto some of my big hives just to clean off, to make sure everything's clean, and make sure they're not lying around in my garage being eaten by beetles and wax moth. It saves me having to freeze them every week, so it's a bit of a labor-saving device. The other thing that I do is, having done the demery, I'm sick and tired of it by now, a lot of the times my big booming colonies now have two queens. They have the original queen in the bottom, they have a queen in the top. So that's perfect split opportunity. So you can use that, split it off, and you've now got 2 hives. I don't actually need more hives, but yeah. So those are some of the things that you will do. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'm going to create a few queens, maybe do a couple of batches, and I'll create my winter nukes round about now, and feed them like crazy during the dearth period and make sure that they survive the winter. But I have started treating already. So those of you who haven't started, my mite levels aren't bad, but I'm doing oxalic acid vapor and going around all the hives, just making sure the mites are down. Okay.
Yeah, I could, my actions pretty much mirror Keith's splitting, or I would say dividing colonies, in that I'll be taking all of my honey off within a week. And what will happen, because I'm using a single brood box, there's going to be a huge abundance of bees. So I will put on leave the queen divider, the queen excluder on, put a box on top, and lift some brood. Queen stays in the bottom, and make an easy split. And then either they'll stay there or they'll be set off for wintering. I'm still seeing, a honey flow. The bees are busy. There's nectar still coming in for sure. But what I'm doing right now is sort of doing emergency. Just hitting the problems. Problem not being a problem. Problem being nukes with huge populations plus frames and frames of brood. So I've got nukes that are going to be split.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Justin has a question I don't understand, though. It says, have a nuke combine problem question. I think he's talking about combining nukes. So Justin, type that answer again so we can get a clearer answer for you.
I'd like to also say hello to Ellen Horitz, also a new member that is joining us for the first time today.
Okay. And someone said that the best sunflowers for bees are the open pollinated heirloom variety like Lemon Queen. So thank you for that info. Laura asks, please explain how to manage a mite-affected hive.
Well,
to jump into that.
I'll take that.
Actually, she corrected it and said, oops, I wanted to say beetle larva.
Beetle larva, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, this is a question where do we start with the good news or the bad news? A heavily infested hive, beetles are, by the time you realize how many are in there, they are so destructive. They've eaten I can't remember if it was your photo of the debris left from the brood or the pupa. They've actually eaten the larva, the pupa. They will ruin the comb or damage the comb, plus ruin any honey stores. Now, what you can try, and I have tried, the chances of it being successful are probably so-so, would be to simply pull out. Now you can pull frames and put them in the freezer, but much quicker, because you can run through all of the frames in a couple of hours. If you pull out a frame and it's infected with hive beetle larvae, just lay it flat in the sunlight, and they evidently have no tolerance to UV light. And within a couple of minutes, they'll come squirming. It drives them out of the comb and kills them. And it's somewhat gratifying to watch the whole thing, because they are tortured. So you can do one side, flip it over, do the other. And it's pretty obvious when all of them have come out of the comb, and then drop it back in the hive, and then pull out another one. Do the same thing and just run through them. And it even works when there's some cloud cover because you're talking UV light. If the colony is heavily infected, the chances of saving it are not good. If you go down in the bottom board, when the beetles start working, you will find excess larvae will drop down. The bottom board might have a 1/16 or an 1/8 inch of pollen and debris. And you can take the hive tool sometimes and go down in that debris and just rake it. And you would have an absolute handful of beetle larvae. Now, the difficult part is, and again, the bad news is that probably the ground, the soil underneath the colony is contaminated with those, with the beetle larvae. And if you kill everything in a hive, the larva in the ground, when it matures, is going to come back out of the ground and recontaminate your colony. So if you're going to treat the frames, I would also move the colony. And you have any other ideas, Keith? Have you dealt with them much?
Yeah, this season, we thought we were going to have a bad season, but we hardly have seen any beetles. I did have a case where I put the returning drone comb, this is the green frame, and I placed it very close to another frame. The bees then clean it off and the queen will lay in there. It is one of the experimental hives, so it was in a bump out section of it. The result of that is that the bees couldn't access to clear any potential beetles. So there was 2 spaces on the frame that were about 6 inches in circle, and there must have been 200 beetles in there. There's a number of options I could have done. Could have frozen them, taken them back home, left them in the sun. But all I do is I take a mean, evil, strong colony and I put them into the center. And I think within a few minutes, you'll see those larvae coming out. The bees will very, very quickly take them out. So as long as it's a very strong colony, and the next week that you look at those ones, the frame is perfect. There's not a larva around. Yeah, so those are options that you can do. But this year doesn't seem to have been too bad with beetles, but now is the time that they start showing themselves. So they start coming back.
Yeah, we have seen a number of beetle questions popping up on the forums and on Facebook. So some of the members are having problems.
And it's more than likely they don't have enough bees to patrol.
Correct.
Them. So
Correct.
you need to have numbers to get them. So as soon as you have 3 deep brood boxes, but only enough bees to cover 1 5-frame nuke, you're asking for trouble. So remember to reduce your hive if the bees are small. But at this stage, if you've kept your hives normal, you haven't made them swarm, then virtually every hive is strong at the moment. So you don't normally.
Follow-up question that says, do you need to use both a Freeman oil tray and the beetle blaster?
I don't see any of those.
One better than the other?
I hardly see any beetles. I think it's just.
Yeah, probably either. The effective defense is a very strong colony. And that's one of the reasons I use the single brood box, because the colonies are just overflowing with bees. And that's really the secret, in my mind.
Okay. I have another question on, I have frames of honey that are not capped, maybe 50% capped. What do I do with these honey frames if I want to treat hive for mites? Let me take that one because I just wrote it into my newsletter section. Just separate the honey frames, the supers, from the deep with a foam board. So if you put a foam board on top of the deep and then your honey supers on, and then you can treat with oxalic acid vapor, and the next day you can take the foam board away and everything will be fine.
As long as they don't find a gap, Paul, in the top, and they start robbing your honey stores, another hive will come in and rob them. So make sure it's sealed at the top.
Seal it at the top.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so don't let other bees, don't leave an opening at the top.
And someone else asked, what's the best mite treatment considering the heat and if they have a flow hive honey super on?
Mark, you want to answer that one? No, but I mean, basically the honey safe treatments are, it's generally too warm for honey safe. That's the Mite-A-Thon quick strips and the other, what is that one called? The one that I think doesn't work. So,
Hop guard?
No, not the hop guard. It's a Mite-A-Thon, it's a new Mite-A-Thon quick strips.
Yeah, I think our ambient temperature is the problem.
Pro, that's the one. It's too hot to treat with those. And again, as Paul said, what I'm doing, I'm treating oxalic acid. What I do is I pump the oxalic acid in, but I've isolated the supers. So as soon as the supers are isolated, I pump in because most of the varroa occur where the brood is. Then as soon as I've finished, the dust has settled or the vapor has settled in the hive, then you can open it up. Even though you don't do that, the University of Sussex did extensive testing and they found that there was no increase in oxalic acid in the honey after incredible number of treatments. So they treated and treated and treated. But it's not approved, FDA approved, because no one can make money out of it. So it's not honey safe, but oxalic acid occurs in honey naturally. So,
Keith, is formic acid pro the other one you were thinking of?
Yeah, that's one. It's a formic pro.
Is that any better in the heat?
No, it's the same. Same as Mite-A-Thon quick strip.
Yeah.
We can't use it. The temperatures are way too high. You'll
Right.
have you might have your bees all leave the hive. You kill queens and all nasty stuff. I think the best now is if you don't want more honey, the most effective treatment is the one that we sort of don't like using, but it's really, really, really effective, and that's Apivar. So yeah, and oxalic acid vapor is not temperature sensitive either. So the hop guard, we're not quite sure of that, but the evidence from Beanform Partnership states that you'll have better success by not using it. But there's HopGuard 3 now, which hasn't really been on the market for that long. That's honey safe apparently, but it sort of doesn't work.
A comment on the flow hive, you treat the flow hive just like you would anything else. If you're doing the oxy or you're doing the Apivar, the honey supers have to come off or be blocked from the treatment. But don't look at flow hive as anything different. And I run 3 of them.
Thanks, Mark. So here we have Kim has a real problem. She's a new beekeeper. Her hives are heavy with honey. 2 honey supers are full, but she was told don't harvest it the first year. What should she do?
Harvest.
Get it, Kim. Enjoy it.
Harvest it. Don't listen to the fools.
Yeah, that's sort of an old wives' tale, but keep in mind that first year colony overwintering doesn't need any more honey than a second or third year or fourth year colony. And enough is enough, and extra doesn't do anything really but cause problems. Now, a little bit later in the year, we will be talking about how much, but you could certainly take, I would say, a super off right now if you'd like some honey.
Yeah, I'd take both supers off.
Yeah.
Extract them. And I believe that to winterize or to take them over the winter, they do better with younger bees. And you stimulate feeding in August, September, October, which develops young, healthy bees, and you can replenish the honey. So take the honey now and make sure they've got supplies throughout this dearth period that you've got, to maybe feed during that. Feeding's relatively cheap, and the bees like it. So that's the policy I follow. So yeah, I would take the honey.
Well, we probably have room for one more question, okay?
Let's get to Justin's question. He was redefining it. He has a couple of double deeps, 10 frame hives. In both of the deeps, the frames 1 and 6 through 10 are all pollen and honey. So his question is, should he remove them? Should he replace them with comb? Should he leave them be? What to do?
Make splits.
Okay, I can take it for you. Justin, you, as you know, that you're sort of juggling full frames. When your brood frames become full of pollen and honey, and they start crowding the brood chamber, as long as you have got space for the honey to be stored above, that means in your supers, as long as you've got space above, whether it's 4 supers above or 12 supers above, if there's a good queen, they will clear that area, and they will use the pollen, they will clear the honey, but often it's an indication that the queen is not as good as she should be. And they start putting honey in the bottom. Another approach that I use is whenever I'm inspecting my brood chamber, if I find honey compacting down there, I will take that and extract it and give them recently extracted frames that are empty of honey. So they're wet frames, and that's beautiful stimulation. But it might be a problem with the queen, and yeah, but this time of year, there's not much of a problem. They're not accelerating as fast as they have, and the swarming has largely gone. It might pick up again a little bit in September, but we've stopped the demery, we've stopped a lot of that. Okay.
So thanks, Merle and Keith. And I know there's questions that we didn't get to, and as usual, so we'll see what we can do about answering them later on. Really, we're going to move quickly to the officer reports. Our Tina, who's our secretary and member relations, anything to say, Tina, tonight?
No, not really. Everything's good. I hope I'm taking care of everyone's emails, and I appreciate them. I love to get them, so keep them coming. Anything I can help anybody with, let me know.
And Tina's behind all the communication that goes out, so please, you know, check your emails, you know, once a week or so to not miss anything. Jack, are you on for?
I am.
Report?
Yes. Real quickly, membership update. We have, as of this week, we have 617 members in the CCBA. And in terms of the treasurer's report, the financial information, we have about $31,150, give or take a few dollars, in the general fund, $10,000 in our reserve fund, and our Save the Bees fund has $10,549.
Jack, can you mention the gift that we got this month for Save the Bees Fund?
I can. We, a local organization, Mattioni Plumbing and Heating and Cooling of Downingtown. Apparently they choose, I believe it is on a quarterly basis, they choose a local organization to give a donation to, and they chose Chester County Beekeepers and gave us $1,000 gift this month. As far as I know, there are no members of the family. We don't have any members by that last name, so I'm not sure what their connection was or how they chose us, but they did, and we received a very nice $1,000 gift from them.
And I think we're going to be participating in the Roundup Whole Foods sort of fundraiser in September, which was a
That's
very
correct.
thing that
Right.
we did a few years ago. So
Yep. The Kimberton Whole Foods that I believe they own 4 of the stores, and for the month of September they picked us as their charity. Anybody who agrees when they check out at the register to round their purchase up to the next highest dollar amount, even dollar amount, all of those proceeds will come to us for those 4 stores in September.
So it's great to be getting that that recognition and engagement from our community, some of our community partners. So great work by everybody. Paul and Mark, anything from a vice president standpoint, or?
Nothing for me right now, thanks.
Yeah, nothing from me other than the stuff we'll talk about later.
And then just as a reminder, we have also a board of directors, myself, Jack, Keith, Mark, Merle, Tina, and Warren, and they're the leadership of the club.
Not this Mark, that's the other Mark.
Yeah, Mark S., Super Nathan. This is, I do this every meeting. These are our 13 committees for our new members. There are all kinds of activities going on. If you're interested in sort of helping out or getting more involved in the CCBA, the best way to do it is to pick a committee and just join it. You see the committee leads, they're great beekeepers and great people, the 13 of them. So if you're interested in joining a committee or getting more involved, just send Mark a chat and he'll forward it to me and I will get you in contact with the committee lead. So they're the committees. We've had some super busy committees this year. The Queen Committee has to date mated and distributed 66 Chester County Survivor Queens, which we're tracking over time. So that's really good. And we have 2 more rounds to go. So we'll probably make our goal of 100 mated queens this year. Lauren's been busy on the education front with the video series. We're going to hear a little bit about Mite-A-Thon and the hive crawl tonight. Walt, Talunis, and Kathy are doing a terrific job with the beginners and apprentice programs. We have 52 new members that are either participating in the beginners course or the apprentice program this year. And the apiary now has 13 CCBA hives, and that's managed by Tony and his committee. And we're going to talk a little bit about the USDA APHIS project that the apiary is going to be involved in this year. So a lot of great work coming out of the committees. We do have a new librarian, which is great news for Justin, who's been sort of a temporary and holding the books, and Tina. We have John, who's volunteered to become CCBA's new librarian. So thank you, John, if you're on tonight, and we will get you some Zoom time in a meeting or two to sort of share your vision of the CCBA library. A new position that I'm looking for. This is a position that I've kind of wanted for a bit. I'd like to have a CCBA Bee Geek. So what is a CCBA Bee Geek? Their job description is to have fun implementing hive or weather monitoring technology at the CCBA apiary. I would like to have this information linked to the CCBA website to be shared with the local beekeeping community. The position will be supported by the Citizen Science Committee and work with the apiary committee. And something I'm going to advocate to the board and also to the officers to fund, because I think we could surely get more education out there and learn a little bit more about our local beekeeping sort of trends. So if anybody is interested in that area, please consider. Again, it's starting from nothing, so whatever anyone's able to do would be most appreciated. If you'd like to talk to me more about this, just send me an email and we'll be in touch. So you could be the CCBA Bee Geek. Now for sale at the storefront is the Varroa Tester. There was 10 of us last night who made close to 200 Varroa Testers in my barn. It was lots of fun. They work excellently. You can use them as a alcohol wash, or you can use them as a sugar shake, and they're only $7, and they're on sale at the storefront. So if you're interested in a Varroa Tester for the upcoming Varroa season, and then you can buy it there. Pickup is going to be this weekend and next weekend, sort of at my house on the front porch. So it's going to be the honor system. So if you buy a Varroa Tester or buy 3 Varroa Testers, just come and take 3 Varroa Testers. And it's going to be that simple. So I'll put them out this weekend for those that buy. Hopefully we won't run out. We've made 200. So everyone really should have one of these. I really think that we listened to Randy Oliver earlier and trying to identify those hives that may be better at managing Varroa, or maybe those hives that are getting sicker or more infested sooner, we want to know about. So consider for $7, it'll last you at least 5 or 10 bee seasons.
So two points. How much are those commercially for the Varroa washers? And then will they be available at the wax dipping as well as at the beginners class on Tuesday?
Yeah, so yes and yes. So if you look at the one that's commercially available, it was $20, but I've seen it for $29 now. I guess it's Varroa season, so they've upped the price. So they're quite expensive. And yeah, so if you come to wax dipping or if you're in the beginners course, we'll move these. We'll move these around as best we can. You know, so if you ordered one, we'll try to get it to you. So they're well made, right? Mark was there with me making these. So excellent.
The cosmetics will be improving with the next batch.
Oh, Merle was there too. Yes, the nice thing about these is you can see if you're doing an alcohol wash, you put a half a cup of bees in the top cup, and then you fill it with alcohol, and then you swirl it for a minute. And what happens is the mites fall through the stream onto the bottom of the cup. So you just hold up the bottom of the cup, and you can count your mites, and then you just pull the bees out. So you don't have to sort of rinse alcohol through the bees and then re-rinse. It's really quite slick. And there's 2 cups, so you can sort of decant the alcohol into one and then put the mite washer back in. If you're doing a sugar roll, all you do is you take the green top off, you throw in your half a cup of bees, you turn it upside down, you add 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, and then you roll and then you shake. So it'll work for either one. And anyway, so there's only 200, so hopefully we'll get rid of them in the next week or 2. Just as a reminder, there is Constitution amendments that have been proposed by the board of directors. They're minor changes. They basically allow remote voting for the board of directors election. There's some other minor changes. The board of directors, we had some discussion of whether or not we were going to increase the number of board of directors, but we're going to leave it at 7. The entire proposed changes can be found at the website under the documents, governing documents, proposed Constitution Amendment 6/2020. There's going to be a vote on the amendments at the September 2020 meeting. We're not exactly sure how we're going to do that if COVID continues to be problematic, but that's the timeline. Again, these are relatively minor amendments to our current Constitution. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Isaac, who is here today with the Pollinator Partnership and is going to chat with us a little bit about something called Mite-A-Thon.
Yeah, thanks. And I love this slide here.
Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this to be in the presentation, but this is great. This is our newest poster. So that's available on our website. And if you have access to a poster printer, I can even just send you the digital file and you can have it printed for free. Well, you'd probably have to pay for the printer, but you wouldn't have to pay us. And there's loads of great information about the different aspects of this poster on the website too. You can even explore it virtually and zoom into the different ecosystem services if you're curious. Yeah, thanks for including this in here. Yeah. So I titled this kind of the buzz on bees. I thought about saying the bugs on bees, but that seemed a little bit dark. We're talking about Varroa mites and in particular the Mite-A-Thon. My name's Isaac Lyle. It looks like that got formatted out of the slide. But I've been at Pollinator Partnership now for about 4 years and pretty deeply involved with many of our different programs, especially those involving bees and honeybees. And today I'm going to be particularly focusing on one of those programs that you can all get involved with to make a real difference in the health of honeybees in North America that we're putting on. You can go to the next slide. And just a little bit about Pollinator Partnership. We're the largest organization in the world that's devoted primarily and completely to just the protection of all pollinators. Protection and health of all pollinators. There are lots of organizations devoted to maybe bees or insects or maybe hummingbirds, but we really do try to look holistically at all the pollinators. They're all really essential. to our ecosystems and our ecosystem services. And we do this through several avenues, including education and outreach, research, both research that we conduct ourselves and research grants that we fund, and then habitat creation and restoration, and a little bit of policy and advocacy. So getting pollinators written into the Farm Bill, for example. And we also work directly with the Obama administration to get the Presidential Pollinator Protection Action Plan put in place. Next slide. So the Mite-A-Thon is the specific program we're going to be talking about. And this kind of fills both like our education and outreach part of our mission and the research from a citizen science perspective. This is really a citizen science initiative and an education initiative. And it's coming up real soon here, August 15 to 30th, and it's North American wide. We usually have most of our participation from the US, but we do have participation from Canada and Mexico as well. And for the rest of this presentation, I'm really going to be narrowing in on what the Mite-A-Thon is and why we do it and how you can get involved. And then I'll also walk through a little bit how to actually do the citizen science survey component of it. And hopefully we'll have a lot of time at the end for questions. Yeah, so what is the Mite-A-Thon? Like I said, it's an international citizen science effort that we actually conduct twice a year to help beekeepers gain a knowledge of the level of mite infestation in their hives that they're carrying, both at the beginning of the season. So we have a spring Mite-A-Thon, and also just before overwintering begins. So we have like a late summer or a fall Mite-A-Thon, and that's the one that we're coming up on. And participants will upload the data that they collect on the number of mites in their hive and a few other parameters to mitecheck.com, which is actually a website run by the Bee Informed Partnership that was mentioned earlier. And below you can see a list of all of our partners on this. This is going to be our third year doing the Mite-A-Thon. And when this program started, it was really because a bunch of beekeepers started reaching out to us about Varroa and wanting to know what we're doing about the issue, how they can get involved. And so we reached out to several of our different partners, including American Beekeeping Federation, American Honey Producer Association, and government agencies, and a bunch of different prestigious bee labs and universities across the country that really have helped us kind of plan out the Mite-A-Thon. And that still slowly evolves every year as we try to continue making it better. And so there are a lot of partner resources that come along with this that you can find on our website. We'll get to those on a later slide, I believe. And these partners are really a great resource, especially for different questions that may come up concerning the Mite-A-Thon. Why do we decide to do it? Well, Varroa Destructor, it's centered around mainly monitoring for the mite. And just bring back one of those initial images for some of the newer members who may not have seen it. This is a picture of a mite on a honeybee that we got from one of our partners. And it looks pretty nasty, and the bees don't like them much either. But this mite and the viruses it vectors are a significant driver in honeybee colony mortality, especially overwintering. And when we started this initiative 3 years ago, it was just kind of starting to become an issue that people were really noticing, at least on like a national level. So we really started this to encourage monitoring and encourage testing. And there are two primary objectives here. And the first one is really just to raise the awareness, and especially amongst beekeepers, and raise awareness about different testing strategies and different treatment methods. And so you'll see that also later when we get onto the survey form. You can go to the next slide. If you want to participate, there's still plenty of time to sort of plan this out and participate for what we're calling our fall data collection period. Even if you didn't participate in spring data collection, that's completely fine. And a couple things to monitor would be the level of mites per 100 bees. And obviously you can't get really 100 bees into one of those cups, so it takes a couple cupfuls. And I think we usually recommend 300 bees, measuring the mites in 300 bees and dividing it by 3. But there are some different, perhaps, recommendations on that. And using pretty standard testing methods, powdered sugar roll or an alcohol wash. You can see the powdered sugar roll pictured here. Alcohol wash, a lot of people find to be more effective. Yeah, thanks for the next slide there. Alcohol wash, a lot of people find to be more accurate, I should say. But the downside is there's bee mortality associated with that. And powdered sugar roll oftentimes isn't quite as accurate, but you're not killing the bees. And so we're also looking for data on the location, the total number of hives you might own, even if you're just looking at 2 or 3 and collecting data on 2 or 3, and like the number of mites from each hive that you're counting, obviously. And then another way that we encourage people to participate is to continue spreading the word and getting people involved in this national initiative and this community that's focusing on this problem. And you can see our website there, pollinator.org and /Mite-A-Thon. You can find lots of resources from some of our different partners. You can find who all of our different partners are and their websites, and also more information on how to participate. And you can also reach out to Mite-A-Thon at pollinator.org. You can also just reach out to me directly if you'd prefer. My email is just my name, Isaac, ISAAC at pollinator.org, or call us. That's our office number there on the slide. You can go to the next one. So now I'm gonna just sort of briefly walk through what the survey looks like. It's not very difficult or complicated, but we found that it's easier and a lot less intimidating if people know what it's gonna look like before they go to collect data. And there are 2 ways to do the survey. One is actually an app that the Informed Partnership has put out, and that's for both iOS and for Android devices. And so that can be really convenient if you're trying to enter data just as you're out by your hives collecting the data. What I'm going to be walking through is the desktop online version, which also works. Some people prefer to just be using pencil and paper and then upload it all later when they come back inside. And you just go to mitecheck.com, and it's pretty easy to find. Right along the top, there's a take the survey checkbox that you click, and it will take you to the next page. And at the top, you'll notice that it does ask for contact information, and really only the email is required. If you want to provide your name and some other information, you can, if you want to stay in touch that way, but really we just want the email. And this is mostly for security purposes, making sure that we're getting real submissions from real people to this form. And none of this contact information is shared with anybody. Even when we get the data to look at it, we don't get it associated with the emails. So we may get a list of emails so that we know, okay, this many people submitted data, but it's not linked up to the information that you've submitted. If you're worried about anonymity, or oftentimes very large apiary organizations are worried that if they have a lot of mites, we're gonna like crack down on them or tell the press about them or something. But this really is all confidential. And then the next section talks about location information. And this again, it is not designed to be like a gotcha type of thing. You can be as specific or as broad as you're comfortable with the location you give us. You can even just give us your city that you're in or your county that you're in. we really only need location data down to the county level. More specific than that is really useful to us, but it's not necessary. And if you play around on the MiteCheck website, you can see that this is actually a running survey that goes year round, not just the time that we're measuring. And you can see different counties that have recent participation and the level of mites on average that have been seen in those counties. And so that's a pretty cool tool. And that's really the only thing that we use your location for. And then we ask for, you know, the number of hives that are in your yard that you're testing, the testing method that you're using. And we also ask, like, have you been moving a bunch of these colonies recently? And then the sampling date. And then we'll ask you to actually enter in your mite samples that you've taken. And if you've taken more than one sample, sometimes people will choose to take multiple samples from the same hive if they want to be sure that their number is really accurate, or really most of the time this is used if people are testing multiple hives. And so you can just click the plus button to bring up multiple boxes for each count that you've taken. And we just want to make sure that it's clear that the count that you enter here should be the number of mites per 100 bees, rounded to the nearest whole number. So if you've measured from 4 hives, means you've sampled 300 bees for each hive, and counted the number of mites that you found, divided it by 3, and that would be the number that you put in these boxes. And then there are a couple questions just about your past and future Varroa management strategies that you're using. So I imagine many of you are probably familiar with most of these methods. I'm not really going to go into them in any detail, but we just use this to be able to try to see what methods are people leaning towards using. Is there anything that seems to be working and more effective than other methods? And try to provide back some useful information in our report that we send out. You can go to the next slide. And that's it. It's really a very quick survey. The next step is just submitting the survey. You do have to agree to the terms and conditions. And then that second box there is optional, but it really helps us out if you check it. And that's just agreeing to share that email with us. Once again, not associated with whatever data you've submitted. But what we do with those emails is we send out the report directly to you. It normally takes us about a month or so to look at some of this data and see some pretty cool trends. And we'll send that straight to you. And you can see a picture there of our final report from 2019. If you want to read that report, you can find it on our website still. Yeah, so thank you for your time. Like I said, it's kind of a quicker presentation because I wanted to leave time for questions if anyone has those. And just as a reminder, the dates for fall data submission are August 15 to 30th this year. And you can feel free to reach out to me directly for questions or go to our website there and look some things up on your own. Thanks.
Thanks, Isaac.
Thanks, Isaac.
So if anyone has any questions for Isaac, and put them into the question and answer. And Paul, you want to keep an eye on those?
Isaac, I have a question.
Okay.
When it comes to our club members sampling for mites, for Mite-A-Thon, are you guys hoping that we're sampling mite counts specifically during the August 15th through the 30th? Or let's say someone sampled them maybe a little bit earlier, a little bit after. Like, is there a specific time frame you guys would ideally like this mite count to happen?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. And the reason we have 2 data collection periods, one in the spring and one in the fall, is ideally so that beekeepers will test early and get an idea of what's going on in their hive early in the season, and will continue to test periodically over the summer. and then test again shortly before overwintering. So for our purposes, we can really only count data received during those dates towards the Mite-A-Thon, but the survey is open all through the summer and even year round. And so even if you can't participate during those dates, you can still submit some pretty cool citizen science data to Bee Informed Partnership that will help them out with some of their longer term objectives for some of this.
Isaac, I have a question from Diane who asks, what so far is the favorite method of treating?
That is a great question. Let me look here real quick. So we've actually answered this in our final report. So if you go online and read through some of that report, you'll find it. But let me look through here now and I can just give a quick answer. So it looks like last year, oxalic acid was the method used by most people, and oxalic by a little bit more than the others. But overwhelmingly, people decided that going forward, they were going to start using oxalic acid.
And that would be the oxalic acid vapor?
You know, the forum does not distinguish between those two.
Okay.
So maybe that's something that I can check with the Informed Partnership and see if there's a reason why they're not distinguishing. Yeah, and then Formic Pro was second to oxalic acid in terms of what people were planning to use moving forward. But in terms of what was popular right before the Mite-A-Thon last year, a lot of people were doing drone comb removal and breaking the brood cycle were very popular methods as well.
And there's a comment for Hive Tracks users. You can opt into the mite check with the mite count section. Just so for your information.
Anything else, Paul, coming up? So I'm gonna turn it over to Lauren for a few minutes because Lauren is going to be our champion of this Chester County Beekeepers efforts towards participating in the Mite-A-Thon this year. So I'd like to give her a few minutes to make a couple comments. Okay,
George, can I actually mention something real quick?
Sure.
That I actually left out of the presentation, but we do a giveaway every year for both the spring and the fall Mite-A-Thons to the beekeeping organization with the most participation.
Do we get to pick what the prize is?
Oh, this is good. This is
well. So the prize is a gift certificate to Dayton.
Awesome.
Keeping it kind of general there, and just in that giveaway, we asked things like how many members participated, how many was the first time participating, and what did the beekeeping organization do as a whole to try to educate their members or encourage participation.
So when we win, Isaac, which of course we're going to do, we want to make sure you get recognized for encouraging us to do this. So make sure you ask for your gift certificate too.
All right.
Go ahead, Lauren. You want to throw some comments in at this point?
Sure. Isaac, thank you so much for giving your time to us tonight to tell us about Pollinator Partnership and Mite-A-Thon's upcoming fall assessment and what we can do as beekeepers, you know, from a citizen science and educational perspective to, you know, drive this wonderful effort for the pollinators and the honeybees. So thank you. I'm not sure if he's gone. Did he go?
No, sorry, I'm here.
Okay.
I was just on mute nodding.
All right, so thank you so much. You guys, this is such an amazing project and an amazing effort. I am coming from a position where this is only my third year of beekeeping, so I consider myself a real novice, and it only became apparent to me that, oh, these mites are something, like right before I started beekeeping. And then when Keith was president, you know, I know we talked about mites and mite counts a lot and trying to know your mite count. I will admit I was kind of, okay, we need to treat. I'm going to treat, but I don't really feel like killing the bees. I'm just going to treat because that's what we should do. We want to knock the mite count down. And it took a while for me to be educated that, you know, that mite count is a really important factor for beekeepers right now. You know, education is knowledge, information is knowledge, and we need this with these bees. Especially for those of you who have not overwintered or not lost a hive yet, to lose a hive that was booming at this time of the year is pretty devastating. And knowing that it's the Varroa mite that carries these vectors that will destroy your hive over the next few months, like, what can we do to educate beekeepers to help this effort and maybe get some very demographic information for the CCBA? So I guess what I'm saying is we have an opportunity here. And before I say what I'm about to say, I want to give a scenario. If any of you have ever had a doctor's checkup where you needed to get your blood drawn, okay, so you have to get your blood drawn so that you get information about what's going on inside of your body. You know you're going to kill a couple cells. You know, it's going to hurt a little. You're going to get this prick. And if you have someone who's really not very knowledgeable about drawing and phlebotomy, you might be bruised a little. But if you can get that sample and they can run tests on your blood, you're not killing yourself off. You actually might be getting an early diagnosis that's going to be preserving you and getting information for you on how to best handle your health and your livelihood. And this check, whether you're going to do the powdered sugar roll for Mite-A-Thon or the alcohol wash for Mite-A-Thon, you know, if you're doing the alcohol wash, yes, you're going to sacrifice some bees, but you have to keep in mind that that small sacrifice of those 300 bees, considering right now you might have 100,000 in a hive, and the information that you can get on your mite count could save this hive. You know, I've lost one hive, and this was like the most gentle hive in the world because I didn't check my mite count. I just treated. I didn't know better, and I should have known better. So that's kind of where I am with you guys tonight, is I want us to be better. I want to take our knowledge here of Varroa mites, and I want to get us up here. So we have a really good opportunity over the next couple weeks, over the next month, really. And here's what we're thinking. So one, consider participating in Mite-A-Thon. This is a tri-national effort. The information that could be obtained and used down the road could be very valuable. Okay. Two, all right, so within our own demographics within Chester County, those of you who are still planning to check your mites or want to learn, you know, we're going to help you guys. If you can do the alcohol wash, and if you sat in on Randy Oliver's presentation, he emphasized that the mite count using the isopropyl alcohol, in particular the 91%, but he was okay with 70% as well. So those of you who are doing your powdered sugar roll, like, enter it in Mite-A-Thon. Those of you who are going to do the alcohol wash, which is the more accurate way of detecting your mite counts, we kind of want some of you to give us some information as well. We'd love to know what your mite count was, what % wash you were doing, and most importantly, did your hive make it through the winter? The question we're considering right now is, in our demographics in Chester County, could there be not a magic number, but could there be a threshold number that is an indicator of colony overwintering success with regards to mite count? You know, is 3 mites per 300 bees, is that really the threshold? Are our bees a little more resilient than that? And if we get a couple volunteers just to if you're going to do Mite-A-Thon, just get some of the information on your hives and your mite count, and then just let us know, did it survive? So details are going to come soon. So they're going to come out over the next month on how you can participate in that as well. And hey, if you're already going to be doing mite count, you've already done it. You have the numbers. The only other thing we just need to know is in the spring, did they make it? And I'm hoping that they did. So again, details to follow on that. And we're also coming from a position where our knowledge is here. We could have so much more knowledge, and we could answer some questions about varroa mites in our demographics that maybe other beekeeping associations haven't been able to look at because their numbers just aren't as high, and ours are. So that's kind of where we're going with that. And I appreciate your time tonight. So check your mites. Don't do what I did my first year or my second year, which was just treating and not checking the mite count. And if you need help, we're going to be here to help you guys get that mite count. Okay.
Thanks, Lauren, and thank you, Isaac. We'll see you back. I don't know when you put the award out for the best club, but we'll see you back, right, when that comes out. So.
Yeah, I'll plan on it.
Okay. We can't fly to Chester County, Pennsylvania, but if you want to come out this way, we'll host you.
All right, sounds good.
See ya, Isaac.
Yeah, see ya. Thanks for having me.
So we have, Lauren said, don't do it, but I can't help myself. So we have 600 members in the club. We know we have one of the best clubs in the area. I mean, we know that, and I'm not going to say that the other clubs know that, but I think the other clubs know that. We put on the best conference. We have the largest membership. We sell the most plants. Whatever it is, and this is going to be one attempt to get on a national sort of spotlight of the club. This pollinator partnership is associated with BIP, and I think to show them the power of the Chester County Club and collecting some information and sharing it with the beekeeper world is going to be very important. So that is part of the reason why we've made 200 mite washers and offer them for $7. So if you don't have a mite washer, you can buy one. And I'm not going to put a number out there. And again, citizen science, as Ray and Lauren has reminded me, that it's voluntary. And I surely don't want to make anyone feel like they're being forced to do this, but I really think it's a very good opportunity for the club to be seen on a national level as able to do this kind of work. So, thanks, Lauren, for being the champion of this, and you will be receiving more information from her and about how we're going to organize our efforts to make sure everyone who wants to contribute can contribute.
Thank you.
Did I do okay, Lauren?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And seriously, it doesn't take a lot of us to make a big difference. I was really impressed that only 10 of you got together and made 200 mite wash apparatuses. So it's not going to take too many of us to get some really good data that we can use as a club. And that's really it.
And Lauren is collecting, she's going to be collecting hive survival, and she's going to be using that in her science program with her students to look at a project. So, how could you not want to contribute to that, right?
Thank you.
So, yeah. So anyway, you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. And again, remember, July 15th is Mite Kill Day. And everyone should be treating for mites on July 15th, and then everybody 1 month later, August 15th, should be rechecking that level to make sure that their levels are low. And if their levels aren't low, they should be retreating. So it is aligning absolutely perfectly with our July 15th Mite Day, that a month from that treatment, you need to be rechecking and see where you are. If you ignore mites, 80% of your hives are going to die. That's just the way it is. If you ignore mites and do nothing and hope for the best, 80% of your hives will die. If you do something about mites, measure mites, treat mites, then 80% of your hives are going to live, and you're going to be selling bees instead of buying bees next year. So that's sustainable beekeeping, to be selling bees instead of buying bees. So again, we're gonna knock this one out of the ballpark, and we'll win a prize. And I don't know what we'll spend it on, but we will win this. So anyway, so I'm going to turn it over to. I found this little image there, Cowboy beekeeping. So, Paul every month has graciously given what he's doing in his hives and how he's managing his hives. So this is Paul's segment to talk about Cowboy beekeeping.
Thank you, George. What a great graphic. But for those of you that don't read my column, I sign it off at the end of the newsletter with good luck with your own cowboy beekeeping. So it's just really an admonishment to keep on doing what you think is best. So, you know, maybe you're into your 3rd year of beekeeping and you've read all the books, you've listened to all the experts, you've gotten all the advice from the bee gurus, but you'll be going through your hive and you'll go, you know, why don't I just do this? And you'll just do something that you think is going to work out well without any preconceived notions or surety. And that's cowboy beekeeping, kind of winging it. So anyway, my own last newsletter talked about my biggest cowboy beekeeping on my new hive. The new hive was about to swarm early in May, and I thought it was already swarmed. It was full of queen cells. There were hatched queen cells, and I thought for sure that the queen was gone. But I found her on the bottom deep. So I quick just pulled her out of there and made a nuke out of her. And I let the hive make its own queen. Only the virgin queen never came back. So after a month, it was clear that there was no virgin coming back and I needed a queen. So I just reintroduced the old queen right back to her former hive, but it had been a whole month. So I took the whole hive apart, put a new bottom box, bottom deep, on the very bottom, and then took the double frame nuke, the double deep nuke that I had sequestered her in, and put the whole 10 frames into that new box on the bottom. Put a queen excluder on, reassembled the whole hive of 2 deeps and 3 supers on top of that, and hoped for the best. And it all worked out. A new queen actually did develop upstairs, and the old queen did lay eggs for a period of time downstairs, and then she walked away, or the hive got rid of her, and right now we have the new queen up above. The upstairs queen is doing fine. So that worked out well. But what I'm going to do with my bees this month. 1, I'll continue to check for honey. I don't think the flow is over. I mean, I know I had my biggest harvests in June, and but I'll continue to check each week during the honey flow because there's plenty of clover out there. And I like picking each frame out of the supers and checking it for ripeness and doneness and heft. And if I think it's full and heavy enough, then I'll take that. And I like to go through the hives looking at each frame of each super. It takes me a while, but I have total control over what I select. And I never use like a Porter bee escape because I have no need of it. I just pull the frame out, give it 2 shakes. If I decide to take it, I give 2 shakes and then a sweep of a polyester brush, and then put it into a spare shallow super and cover it with a towel so the bees don't get back on it. So I'll go through and I'll take all the supers that I can find. And it's important to go into the deeps as well and pull a lot of honey out of the deeps, because you don't want the bees to keep putting honey into the brood space. So you have to keep checking for that. Usually frames 1 and frames 10 will have the most honey and heavy nectar. So I'll keep an eye on those, and I'll take those as well. Number 2, check for mites. I have checked for mites via the swirl test that Randy Oliver mentioned with the using Dawn Ultra detergent. And I think that worked well. I had thoroughly clean bees, but I have not found a mite yet. So maybe it's because I use the green drone frames quite a bit. In my 4 hives, I've replaced 15 drone frames so far this year. So when they're full with drone larvae, then I'll take them out and freeze them and put them back to the hive the next week. Number 3, treat for the mite on July 15th. That's our mite kill day for our club. So we've done that. This will be the third year that the entire club has been urged to kill mites on July 15th. I myself will use oxalic acid vapor, and I will sequester, or I will partition off the supers from the deeps by putting a foam insulation board on top of the top deep, and then I'll leave the honey supers above it. But as Keith pointed out earlier tonight, I'll block those honey supers so that the up above honey supers, so that the oxalic acid can't get in and bees can't bring oxalic acid in there until the next day, when everything should have crystallized onto the woodenware. And on the next day, I'll remove the foam board and the hive will be back in business. So please treat for the mites on July 15th. Number 4, get a refractometer. I had said that I'd take honey when it's not completely capped, because if it's very heavy and the bees don't feel like capping it, they don't have to. But if it's very heavy and you can give it a horizontal shake test and nectar does not splash out, that probably means that it's honey and you can take it. But it's best to always check with a refractometer. So in my newsletter, I mentioned you can buy one at Man Lake for $79.95. That's a good quality handheld refractometer with a scale. And you can buy their calibration fluid, or you can use extra virgin olive oil. There are a couple of, as a calibration calibrator system fluid. So there's a couple of scales on this refractometer. One gives the percent water, and the other is called a Brix scale, B-R-I-X. And extra virgin olive oil is usually between 71 and 72 on the Brix scale, which corresponds to about 27% water. So if you set it for 71.5, you should be very close. So using extra virgin olive oil on the refractometer, there's an adjusting screw, adjust it to 71.5, and you should be all set. You can validate your calibration by reading honey that a friend has on a calibrated refractometer, so just comparing one instrument to another, or borrow the digital instrument that the CCBA has. So get a refractometer to be safe, because you want that honey to be below 18.5%, and mine routinely is in the low 17% this year. Here's a helpful hint for extracting honey or prior to bottling honey. Let the honey sit. I let the honey sit in an extraction bucket for a week, and then daily I skim off the bubbles and the fine wax particles that rise to the surface. And when you're finally ready to bottle it, just take a piece of saran wrap and place it over the top surface of the honey. Blot it down good, and then peel it right away, and the surface will be slick, and slick as a whistle, and you will be able to extract all the, or bottle all the honey into jars without any debris. 5 or 6, in the heat of the summer, your bees need to be hydrated. In these 90-degree days, they are looking for water. I have 2 bird baths and a fountain, so they can find water there. But to make it easy on them, I simply take a Boardman feeder, fill it with water, and put it right in the front entrance. So it's in a quart jar, and they don't have to go very far to find it, and they will thank you. They use the water to cool down the hive, and always also to raise brood. And also aid with ventilation by staggering the hive boxes. So I pull the second box back an inch, and then I push the third box forward an inch, and I stagger it that way so my hives are totally ventilated. You don't have to worry about rain going in there. At this time, you don't have to worry about robber bees going in there. But in the fall, when the robber bees get a little more numerous, then it's time to close up the hives. But if you leave it ventilated and also prop open the upper outer cover with a stick, about a 1/2 inch square, that will aid ventilation. The bees will be able to get into the hives at many different levels, which will ease their nectar storage and will greatly increase the ventilation and evaporation of that nectar into honey. Thank you very much. Good luck with your own cowboy beekeeping.
And, you know, for those of you who are new, I mean, Paul, how many hives do you have this year?
4 hives.
4 hives. So Paul is a sort of pretty representative of the average club member who has less than 5 hives. And it's impressive with Paul's sort of attention to what's going on and sort of reacting to that about the amount of honey production he can get and the learning he can get from his hives. So I think, again, thank you, Paul, for being a great example of what someone can do with only a few hives. You know, it's wonderful.
Thanks, George.
Paul, can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is Ann. So you were mentioning that when you're doing the OAV that you put a board up there from your honey supers because you're supposed to take the honey, you know, make sure that doesn't get contaminated with the vapor. In years prior, oh look, that's me up there. In years prior, I have taken each frame and each honey super, brushed off all the bees, put them in another box, put them aside, treated the hive, and then put them back. Boy, is that a pain.
Yes, that's the
all
most
in
accurate
agreement?
way to do it.
Oh my gosh. So is that not necessary?
No, I don't think so.
All those bees should be in there getting the vapor. You've got a whole honey super full of bees not getting vaporized. What do you think?
Right.
About that? Or should I not worry about that?
No, I put the foam board on top of the deep, and then I stack the supers on top.
So the bees that are in the honey super, you know, separated by the foam board, no worries if they don't get in contact with the vapor.
Right. So you just block those supers off while you're treating. So the vapor doesn't go in up there, or the bees can't come out of the deeps and then go up there. But ideally, I will put the foam board on in the evening, and then I will treat the bees early in the morning the next day.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they're all walled
Wow.
off, and then everybody's, you know, at home early in the morning, and then I can get all the bees early in the morning.
How
Well,
long do you leave? Oh, I'm sorry, Ann.
Go ahead, George.
How long do you leave the foam board on for, Paul? For 10 or 15
Just a
minutes?
day.
Oh, just the whole day?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will say that treating in, you know, weather like we're in right now and having to go in each honey super and brush all the bees off every, you know, all 8 or 9 or 10 of the frames that are in each super and then treat and all that, that was the difficult part. So if I can just put a foam board there, that's, wow, okay, I'm not dreading it as much. Thanks.
So I twisted Ann's arm a little bit tonight to talk to the group because I think, you know, how long have you been a member, Ann?
So I think I was thinking about that today. I think it was in 2011 or 2012 that I had a friend come over and say, hey, here's a jar of my honey. And I just said, oh, that'd be cool, raising bees. And, you know, 2 weeks later, he was backing up a truck with the whole hive, no bees, but the equipment. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll be doing it now. So I think it's been 8 or 9 years.
So about the same time I've been doing it. And I learned early on that Ann's cool and she sells her own honey. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to hear from her tonight about how she goes about, you know, what she does with her extra honey and a little bit sort of on her experience with selling honey. So.
Well, you know, and as I thought about it, yes, I bet you there's a whole lot of members who are in that, like if we took a poll, you know, there are all you guys who do like tons of, you know, 100 hives or whatever. But then there's probably a lot of people who do between 3 and 4 and 10 or 12 hives. So right now I have like 5 or 6 in production hives and 4 nukes out there. And it always is varying and shifting, usually between like 7 and 10 hives roughly, but oftentimes 4 or 5, you know, sometimes the winters and the mites get the best of everyone. So, so that's me. I started maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and I've just realized pretty quickly that it's so much fun. As everyone else has realized, it's a great hobby. But oh my gosh, you have all this honey to deal with, And I don't feel like I'm like, you know, as most of us probably are, I'm employed, I'm a teacher, I already have a job. This is just fun, but it is certainly nice to make some money on it to pay some of the bills. So I recently moved, but I used to live right off of Paoli Pike in Westchester, which is a real busy road, and my street was off of that street. So I put a directional sign, you know, honey for sale this way, down the road, and with an honor box kind of system. But maybe I'll back up a little bit and just take it from, you know, extracting the honey. I do it like Paul. I don't do any kind of extractor boards or anything like that. I just brush each. I go in. I do a lot of demarree methods, so I'm in there about every 10 days, looking at the frames and swapping them around. And I also see a lot of deep frames with honey on them in the deep hives, and so I take those out unless, you know, there's only one or two. But for some reason, the bees really don't care if it's a deep frame or if it's a medium frame or a shallow frame. They put the honey where they want to. So if there's a whole top deep this time of year that's full of honey, I'll take those out. And I just take them a frame at a time. When I'm in there, if I see a frame that needs extracting, I'll take it out, brush the bees off, and put it aside to extract. So that's how I get the extracting, the honey to extract. As far as jars go, I started by going to Fillmore Container out in Lancaster. It's about, for me, about a 45 or 50-minute drive. They had a little gazebo there where you could call ahead and they could, because they're only open till 5, put it in their gazebo and you could pay for it and pick it up later. They don't do that anymore because of this situation we're in. So good old Ike sells jars. And so as to avoid all the shipping costs with the other companies that you have to do now for a smaller order, I just go to Ike. And he has plenty of jars these days because now he sells everything. As far as labels, when I started out in the business, I just went to good old Staples and I got those oval shaped labels that you see in that picture there. And they have a nice system where you just Google Avery labels and you want, I think it's 1.5 inch by 2.5 inch, and you click on what kind of label you got, and they have templates, and there's even beekeeping templates. So you'll find something there, and that worked for a while, but then I got tired of refilling the ink in my printer. And then I went to my friend Jim, jnolandesign@gmail.com. I'll give him a plug. And he makes my labels now. And maybe, George, you can show a picture at some point later on. You can show a picture of my label. So I had an idea of a label, and I took it to my friend who made the label. And it's much better to have a roll of labels because you go through them so quickly. In any case, that's how I do my labels. That's how I do my jars. I pretty much just do queen line jars and youth jars. Once in a while, I get some comb honey, and I stick those in some jars that I have at home, like pint mason jars and whatnot. But queen line jars and youth jars pretty much does it. Sometimes it's nice to be creative. I see some beekeepers that go a little bit different shaped jars. I think that's great because it shows you're a little creative. But I just do the same old, same old. In any case, as far as selling it, so I used to live on a street that was right off a busy street. So with a little directional sign, raw local honey this way, I had lots of people driving by, and I would just put this box right there that you see in that picture. This is my new house, with the instructions. So I would put the prices in there. This was back when I used to work not at home. So I was never home during the day anyway. And people, invariably, every single person, as far as I know, took a jar and put the money in. And once in a while, it was $1 or $2 short. Maybe once a season, I scratched my head and said, I think I'm missing a jar. But the missing a jar here and there versus having to lug your honey somewhere and sell it and all of that, there couldn't be an easier way than selling it, as the state says, on the farm. Not that I have a farm. So I think that's really easy. So I moved out to, a couple months ago, I moved out to right across from where we used to have our beekeeping meetings, across from Stroud Preserve and on Lucky Hill Road. And fortunately, it's right off of 320, not 322, Strasburg Road, 162. So I have a little directional sign there. People aren't out and about though. So I can venture to guess that there are a lot of people who are finishing up this season with honey on their hands. But that's just the way things are right now. But so I have this honor box. I would say my first year or two in the business, I gave most of it away to friends and family. I am a teacher. I take it to work with me. And I pretty much take a box of honey everywhere I go. And then with a sticker on your car or something like that, people are going to ask you. So, you know, you always need to have some with you. The other thing I do that's a little bit different, not everyone's going to do this, is I have an old Volkswagen bus. And so I load up my Volkswagen bus. I go to car shows and I sell my honey at car shows because I can get into a car show for $10 or $15 and people are looking around at the cars. I sell a jar of honey or two here or there. Other venues that do, you know, sales of craft items, they charge a lot of money to be a vendor. And I just found that it wasn't really worth the, you know, it didn't measure up worth the profit and the effort of hanging there all day and all that. So I think I hit on everything that I do. Of course, all our friends and family, make sure you always give it to your neighbors, especially those with swimming pools and direct neighbors with bird baths and all of that. And that's about it. You know, I do it the simple way. There's also the, you know, you can get approved by the, you know, ag department, or if I'm saying that right, and have them come and check your thing, and then you're good to wholesale it. And that's a whole nother thing. And I'm just, that's too much for me. For small time, you know, beekeeper like me, I just put a box on my back porch and that's good enough. So that's me. That's how I do it. And I think that's, you know, probably the easiest way, you know, when you can just leave it on your back porch, let people put money in the box and take a jar. Doesn't get much easier. So.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. I mean,
Thanks, Ann.
I also sell for one of the members, not my own honey, but I use the honor system too. And it's always, I guess it depends a little bit on where you live, but you know, it's always amazing how there's, you know, always money in the box and some honey left on the stand. So
there is. And when I found out, people ask me a lot, oh my gosh, how do you do that honor system? Don't people steal your honey? I'm like, well, you know what? People who are coming to buy honey are, in my view, just not the kind of people who are just not going to pay. I mean, honey people are good people. All people are good people, but
yes,
especially honey people.
And then once you're known at work as having bees and having honey, you get requests a lot, I assume, for your honey.
Yeah, that too. And of course, everyone's going to put it, if you're on Facebook, I put it on my Facebook page, and then your friends come to you, and you know, you want to, you know, whatever is easiest. And then my daughter says, oh, Mom, you should get a email, you know, what do you call it? A website. Sure. But that's too much work. You know, yes, I would recommend for all those technologically, you know, up-to-date people, get yourself a website and then you can start shipping it. That's too much work for me, but do that. Or even just a website to let people know what your address is would be helpful, I think.
And I think Lucky Hill Road is one of the most beautiful roads in Chester County. So
I think I died and went to heaven when I got lucky enough to move here. But yes, Lucky Hill Road. Yeah, and
amazing.
Bees love being across the street from 300 acres of Stroud Preserve.
They do well there, huh?
Yeah, they do well.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I hope it continues.
I hear a hive crawl at your place at some point.
Okay, that would be fun. I'd be happy to do that. I got plenty of parking.
Thanks, Ann. If anyone has any questions for Ann, we'll pause for a moment or two to let people type in some questions for Ann. You can watch it all.
Question.
I could offer.
Okay, I do have something to say about what do I charge for the porch honey. So, how hot was it today? Who was out there working on bees today? Was it not 90 million degrees in your suit? And how many people get the bee in the suit and you're out there and you're sweating, but the hive is all torn open and they're all around you? What we do is worth every penny of $14 a pound. Just saying. That's what I charge, and nobody has ever said, ooh, ooh, that's a lot. Maybe they thought it, but they still handed over the money. So I think what we do is worth every penny, especially since, you know, the stuff in the grocery store is nothing like what we do or what our bees can create. So.
There's a question about label in
Just
the front.
saying.
You want to, Ann, can you mention what you put on your label? Do you?
Oh, I'm not 100% sure if it's like,
Up to code?
for the ag department or whatnot, but I'm not selling it wholesale. So I put on my name, address, and just name, address.
And weight, I
It has
think.
to have weight.
Oh, wait, yeah, 16 ounces or a pound or a half pound I put on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it all has to have your name, your contact, either address or phone number, and then weight.
Yes.
You're up to code, I think.
Yeah, for the most part, address and weight, yeah, is important. So most of us are probably going to be selling either a pound or a half pound. 16 ounces or 8 ounces. Make sure it says on the label that, and your address. I think you have to have your address on there. Important. So
Technical question, Ann, when you pull a frame of honey, do you replace it with an empty frame?
I do. I reuse all drawn comb. Once in a while, I finally got off my tush and bought my own extractor. I was borrowing a friend's, John McIlvain's, for a while. And so now having my own extractor, I can recommend a good and expensive one if somebody wants one. I did a lot of research. You can actually take the frame out, run down to the barn, extract really quick, and run back up with the empty frame and let them clean it off. So that's one way to do it, where you can do it pretty quickly. But if I didn't have the time to do that, yes, I would replace it with a frame of drawn comb. So that's what I would do. I've left empty spaces there, no major problem, but just, you know, get a frame in there pretty quickly. So that's what I would do.
So
Any particular extractor to recommend?
Oh, so I did a lot of research, just of my own online, of course, and I came up with this Vivo, V-I-V-O, on Amazon.com, a Vivo extractor, and I think it was like high 300s, which I thought was really cheap. But sure enough, those reviews were pretty true in that you put in you can put either 4 medium or shallow frames or 4 deep frames along the back, and it really did a good job. There's a little bushing piece that you have to replace every once in a while. The most important thing about extracting your honey is make sure you feed the extractor with the frames evenly, if that makes sense. A heavy one across from a heavy one, and a lighter one across from a lighter one if you have that, or make sure, or fill up all 4 of them. But this Vivo extractor did a pretty good job, and just had to replace that little bushing piece. And then I strap it down with ratchet straps to keep it from crawling all over the room. But yeah, pretty easy to do it that way. So there you go.
I will offer a bit of encouragement for anyone starting with their honey retailing project. Is a word of encouragement, and your sales will build. It might take a year or two, and repeat customers are really the key. You will establish a repeat customer basis, and they will sustain your sales effort.
Very true, Merle. I had, over the years that I was selling honey with just a directional sign and a sign on my mailbox, by years 2, 3, and 4, a majority, I would say, of people who came to my house had a story about how they were here last year or the year before or the year before. So yes, that's true. A lot of repeat customers. And then the other thing I would recommend, if you're planning on doing the honor box system at your property, I would just make it really clear as to when you're driving up to the property where you go to get the honey out of a box, because I've had people tell me, oh, we weren't sure if we should go to the front porch, the back porch, the side porch. But if you make it really clear with a little sign or something like that, they're less shy about walking around your property looking for the box of honey, just to let you know that in case you're looking to do this. Make
And
it
then they knock on your door and they want to have a conversation for about 10 minutes about what ails
Sometimes.
them and whether or not the honey's going to make it better or not, you know?
Sometimes, yes, sometimes that's the case, but some people are shy and don't want to be snooping around, so you just make it really clear.
Good point.
Yeah.
You are particularly susceptible to that, George.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, Anne. And
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to Mark, who's going to talk a little bit about follow up on Paul's comment about bees needing water in the summer and trying to make sure they get the water where you want them to instead of your neighbor's pool, right, Mark?
Exactly. And in fact, if you look over my shoulder, wrong shoulder, if you look over my shoulder, you'll see this green bucket. If I can move my hand the right way, that green bucket
yeah.
right there. Yes, there we go. And you can see that it's fairly close to the hives in the apiary site. So if you go to the next slide, George, and I think it might be, if you can click the button, click on the image, it should actually be a video. So it's the bottom line up front, it's a bucket. It's got some rocks in it. It's got a pan on the top of it. You can fill it up without even going into the bee yard. I filled it up today using the hose from about 15 feet away. And the way that this thing works, I'll kind of run you through. You can go on to the next slide at this point. You might be able to see the water spurting up a little bit. So what do you need to do this? Well, it depends, but certainly a 5-gallon bucket, which normally they're about 11.5 inches around. You need a submersible water pump, like an aquarium pump. If you have, house current out to your bee yard, you can use an aquarium pump. Just drop it in there, plug it in, off you go. You need some tubing if the pump doesn't come with a tube. And I'll go to on my next slide, I'll talk about solar option. You need a pan. That should also be about 11.5 inches. So an angel food cake pan, if you're at a yard sale, look around. People are selling all sorts of junk. I mean, useful items that that you can reuse and reutilize for whatever purposes you need. I used an IKEA bitter gurkha, which you can see a picture of here. And the only things I had to do to it is I had to drill a hole in the middle, and I had to drill some holes on the side, which you still have to do even with an angel food pan. But it fits perfectly, or pretty close to perfectly, into a standard 5-gallon bucket. You need some rocks. You might need some caulk, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then you need some tools. Really, the only tool you probably need is a drill. If you're doing solar, you probably need a soldering iron because you got a little bit of, there's a little more to it. So go to the next slide. So if I were just using the house power, again, the bottom one, I'd use a $12 120 volt AC aquarium pump. It comes with a tube, you plug it in, goes right up to the middle of the pan, and it's spurting water. You're good to go. I'm running mine off of solar, so I needed a lot more. I needed a 12 volt pump, which is, you get 2 of them for 12 or 15 bucks. You need some kind of a controller that converts your solar into 12 volts, which is a $14 buck controller, but it gives you 4 buck controllers. You need a solar panel. I had some laying around, and you need a little bit of wire. So again, not super cheap, but you can do it fairly cheaply depending on the critical items that you have laying around. You can build, a pump option the way that you want. And next slide. So as you assemble this thing, you basically are drilling some holes in the bucket to keep it from overfilling. You're also drilling holes in the pan to keep it from overflowing or overfilling. And you want when you put the pan into the bucket and you pour water in it, you want the water from the pan to go into the bucket. But if the bucket gets overflowing, you don't want it to go above the water level of the rocks. So that's the holes that are in the pan. But if you continue, it's raining heavily like it's supposed to do tomorrow, you will overflow everything. but the holes in the sides of the bucket that you can see on the third bullet down, it's pointing at the hole in the side of the bucket. And I put like 4 or 5 holes around the bucket, and it drains the bucket if it gets overfilled. And then the next item, next slide, please. Yeah, you got to drill that hole in the middle of the pan, like I mentioned. If it's some of the angel food pans already have a hole there, some don't. You might have to drill a hole there. You check the size of the tube you're going to use, drill the hole about the same size, push it up there. I used a little caulk to seal that tube into place. You could do it 30 or 40 different ways, just a couple of tie wraps even above, and then let it slide back down. If you're using a steel pan, this IKEA pan is steel, so I used a little bit of paint so that it doesn't rust away. And in the Tractor Supply buckets are actually too big. Actually, I think they all were a little too big. Some were much larger, some were much smaller. So I just used some yard staples, just put 3 or 4 of them in there, and it kept it from falling in. And any hole or gap in this bucket, and you can do this 30 or 40 different ways, just make sure it's not, you don't get mosquitoes in there, and you don't get bees going in to the bucket, because the mosquitoes will breed and the bees will drown. So next slide. I think this is probably the last one. Assembly, yeah, you push the hose through, you add the rocks, you add the water, you apply the power, and you can just refill it by pouring water in on top. And the bees, and that was taken yesterday. So the more sun that I have, the higher the water jet goes, although that shouldn't be the case. I think it may also be occasionally, probably once a month, maybe every 6 weeks, come out, dump the bucket out, and put fresh water in it. But on a hot day, a couple of hot days in a row, you probably need to go out and dump some more water in it just to keep it full. That's a water bucket fountain.
Thanks, Mark.
And you don't have to use a green bucket. You can use a prettier color.
Those engineers always make it sound so simple, you know. So if you're an engineer on the meeting tonight, give Mark a shout out. I'm sure he'd love to get together with you and chat further.
And Keith asked, is it too close to the hive? I thought so, but it was like, I'll just put it here for a while and see it run, because the panels happen to be there because it was powering the electronics in the hives. But I see bees in there quite a bit. So yeah, you might have to move yours further away, but they are certainly taking water. And you've also got people that say they put the water right on the landing board, and they're taking water from there. So yeah.
Thanks, Mark. I'm going to wrap up with just a few last slides. Pushing the Varroa Tester. You know, they're on sale on the storefront. You can do that now. If you're sitting there kind of waiting for the meeting to wrap up, go to chescobees.org and go onto the storefront and order 10 Mite Varroa Testers. And again, pickup will be this weekend at my house and next weekend at my house. So hopefully we'll see everybody. And you can see the metal number 8 gauge, and Mark was involved in this, so we at least had one engineer on this last night. The metal number 8 hardware cloth is basically melted in to the plastic bottom. So that hardware cloth is not going, it's not glued, it's not adhesed, it's basically melted into the bottom of that thick plastic cup. So that will be there for a long time. So they're really well made after a bunch of discussion last night. So again, consider buying a few for yourself and for your friends. And if you know people that don't treat or don't do anything for mites, that may be a gift for them this summer. You can get them a Varroa monitor and stick it in their mailbox. And what's blooming? Button bush. So that's, I love this. I love this tree. We have some for sale still on the storefront. I think people don't know what it is. It's really a small bush, and it blooms now, and it has the coolest looking spherical white flowers on it. They look like globes, basically. They don't last very long, but they're very cool looking, and it does well in shade. So if you have some shade and you're looking for a really cool plant that's not going to get that big, again, while you're buying your mite tester, add on the button bush. onto your cart and get rid of them. I have about 12 of them left sitting in my driveway that I have to water every day. So I'm looking forward to somebody coming and picking them up. Again, I don't know what they're selling for, $7 or $5. They're a steal, honestly. And the ones that are in the driveway are beautiful. I'll
come get some, George.
Okay, hurry up and reserve on the website.
I will.
They belong on Lucky Hill Road for sure. The one on the right, sourwood. My sourwood story is interesting because I bought a sourwood before I was a beekeeper because I was fascinated by the red color that they give in the fall. And you know, it's supposed to be like if you're running sourwood honey, you could charge like $30 a pound for it or something like that, because it's supposedly some of the best honey on the East Coast. But I guess it's most of the time the sourwood is a little further south and a little higher up. And every year my sourwood blooms this time of year, and I've yet to see a honeybee on it in like 8 years. And this year I went out there and there was one honeybee on the sourwood. So I got to figure out what hive she's going back to and start extracting, because that is a honeybee on my sourwood. So they have $30 a pound honey in that nectar in that bee. So it's a really cool tree. It doesn't grow that big. It's a little hard to find. I've tried to find it for the plant sale every year because it is, I think, sort of native. Jesse's probably moaning at me right now saying not really in Pennsylvania, but I think it is. But it's hard to find. So if anyone can find a source for sourwood, let us know, because I've been trying to find it and can't find it. And then, I don't know, it's not lemon something, sunflower, but it's a beautiful one in the middle. And wax dipping, I am scheduled to do wax dipping tomorrow from 3 to 8. I'm gonna do it if it rains. We're kind of close to, you can see we're kind of close to the barn. I can't put the wax dipper inside because I don't want to blow up my barn, but we can put it right outside and people can stand inside. So the plan is still, despite the weather, to run, because I have to dip some stuff tomorrow. So I'm going to be doing it. It's new woodenware only, from 3 to 8 o'clock tonight. 3 to 8 o'clock, $4 per piece. If you want to help out by dipping, that would be appreciated, because it kind of gets hard standing up there for 3 or 4 hours like Chris is doing. But if you're going to come and you want to help out, make sure you don't wear nice clothes. You know, bring something that you wouldn't mind getting wax stripped on, because wax never comes out of your clothes. So again, I love the look of this woodenware. I hate to paint. And so if you're looking for some woodenware to dip, come on by tomorrow from 3 to 8. We've heard enough about Mite Kill Day, July 15th. It's really the vision. I guess it's Keith's vision that started this 2 years ago, and really another way that Chester County is sort of leading in the forefront. It's a little controversial, but you know, our hive, like Lauren said, the hive density in Chester County is so high that the mite problem is more significant here. And if we really can lower the mites across the county, our overall survival may be better. So again, I have the treatment options: Apivar, Mite-Away, 7 or 20 days, Formic Pro, 14 or 20 days, oxalic vapor, and Apigard. Again, I'm a Mite-Away user. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going out to Ike's first thing tomorrow morning, and I'm buying either a vaporizer or Apivar. I'm not sure what I'm buying yet, but it doesn't look like we're going to get a temperature break for Mite-Away. If you put Mite-Away on and it's 95 degrees, you're gonna kill a lot of bees, and probably your queen too. So I don't know. Anyway, so July 15th, plus or minus a few days. You know, it does fall in the middle of the week. So if you want to treat this weekend or the following weekend, that's okay too. We're not going to come and give you a CCBA citation because you haven't treated on July 15th, but somewhere around there. The CCBA apiary is participating in the USDA APHIS study. Jeff Eckel is this county inspector. He's going to be out at the apiary on Thursday, July 16th, next Thursday at 10 a.m. And we're going to be doing data collection on 10 hives. And he said it's going to be somewhat helpful if we have a few extra hands on some of the data collection. So if you're available and interested in seeing and talking to Jeff, Jeff's a wonderful educator. I'm sure he'll be there to answer your questions and to help out collecting whatever collection we have. We have to collect bees, we have to collect comb, we have to collect pollen. So there's a bunch of things that we have to collect. So every everybody's welcome to join. Just bring a mask, and if you don't come, that's okay too. But I just want to make sure people know the opportunities that are out there. Lauren is setting up a hive crawl. Are you still on, Lauren?
Yes, I am.
You want to take it away?
Yeah. So mark your calendars. Saturday, July 25th. It's coming up pretty quickly. Is going to be our summer hive crawl. Our hive crawls have kind of been postponed because of COVID, but now we're at the point where we could assemble one. So what we are looking for from the education committee, I'm looking for 8 people. And these 8 people are beekeepers that have an apiary, whether it's 1 hive or 5 hives. And this can be someone, you can be a first year, you know, you can be a 3rd year, you could be a 5 year, you could be a guru. I just want 8 people who are open to doing an inspection on Saturday the 25th. And shortly after this meeting, an email is going to come out, and I'd like to know, would you be available on Saturday the 25th to have up to potentially 25, that's the limit, so we're going to cap it there, to come on site at a specific time to see what's going on in your apiary. What does it look like? Maybe some of you are still pulling honey. Maybe some of you want to do a mite count. I know on my end, I'd love to show a Vivaldi board, and I'd love to show, as long as the hive's doing well, I'd love to graduate a nucleus colony to a large hive, like a double deep. And so I need 8. So again, if you're a first year, it's okay. Like, we want to see your hives, and we want to see what you're doing with the hives. Once we know who's participating in terms of the hosts, what we're going to do is we're going to divide into northern Chester County and southern Chester County. So Westchester is kind of going to be that divider between the north and the south. So if you feel you're more south of Westchester, you're going to sign up for the South Westchester Hive Crawl. And what we'd like to do is 1.5-hour increments to make sure that there's enough time. And what we're going to do is we'll start at 10, and we'll probably end somewhere, the last one would end somewhere between 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And those who aren't going to host but would like to see, you can sign up for multiple. You can go to all of the sites if you want. It's just a matter of signing up to go see them. So again, if you think that you might be open to inspecting or getting in your hives or showing something on Saturday the 25th, when you get to see the email tonight, please respond, sign up, and then we'll figure out signups after that. So thanks so much.
So, so Tina's I'm going to send an email to Tina. Tina's going to send out a blast looking for volunteers. And then the signups will probably go through Club Express. And Jen, I'm not sure if Jen's on tonight. I think she may be. I'll be reaching out to Jen to set that up on Club Express to help people sign up if they want to be on the hive crawls. Lots of fun. Meet your fellow beekeepers, see other people's ways of managing their hives. Again, we still have to be smart with our social distancing and our mask and staying home if you're sick. And we clearly understand that some people may not feel like it's the right time to do this, and we respect that. So again, it's just trying to at least connect a little bit on a safe level. So hive crawl is coming up July 25th.
George, there's one other thing that's not associated with the hive crawl, but I accidentally clicked that I'd answer it live. So can I answer a question live right now?
Sure.
Okay, so Kim Christie said, so Mite-A-Thon is August 15th through 30th, but the CCBA Mite Treatment Day is July 15th. And that is correct. The universal treatment that we're trying to knock the mites down in our particular area is on the 15th. And even if you are going to be treating, it's okay, like a month or so later to still get that mite count, give you a little bit of an indication of how the treatment's working, and then also provide that really good data to the Mite-A-Thon efforts.
I mean, I think it would be great if everybody we have an opportunity to look at this universal treatment here. So we can again, everyone can treat on or about July 15th, and then 1 month later, we can all do mite counts on our hives and see whether or not our mite counts in Chester County are different than the mite counts around the country. Again, it's not a controlled trial, but it's a unique opportunity to, again, to highlight some of the work we're doing in Chester County. So yes, treat on July 15th, and yes, do a mite count on August 15th to August 30th.
George,
Yes, sir.
Jack here. Paul, in reference to the donation we got to the Save the Bee funds from Mite-A-Thon Plumbing and Heating, Paul Fillen commented in the Q&A section that his son-in-law works for them and they choose a charity every month. So thanks to Paul and his son-in-law.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great people.
Thank you. Thank you. Bee Chat's been going on for a couple months now. It's sort of amazing that it keeps going on and we get 20 or 30 people every week. Again, it's basically for people's enjoyment. You know, I mean, there's a 20 or 30 people, Diane and Lauren and a few other people, a lot of other people log on every Friday from 7 to 9. And we just basically chat about whatever's on people's minds. And we listen to Howard talk about bee history. And we listened to Merle talk about bee physiology and understanding what's happening in the hives. And I don't say much because I'm just learning. And my little one, there's my little one right there. And she gets enjoyment out of food. Like if you give her a marshmallow or a lollipop, you can see the enjoyment in her face. So it's really there for your enjoyment on a Friday night. So
so you're going to be bee chatting while you're wax dipping tomorrow? That's
the
pretty
thought.
impressive.
Yes, I'm
pretty impressive.
I'm going to be bee chatting and wax dipping, Jack. That's the thought of it, you know, in the rain. So I'm fully committed. I'm all into this bee chat stuff, you know.
So if you don't get anything answered tonight, you can just dial into a bee chat and ask any of the, you know, the dedicated personnel there any question, and you'll get lots of good answers.
Yeah, it's really, that's what it's designed. You know, it's really low key and it's lots of just laid back, and you don't have to talk. You could just type in your question in the chat box, and then sometimes people will go off on a little bit of tangent, but it's usually bee related. And, you know, it's really for your enjoyment. So every Friday night, if you can log on for 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, but anyway, come join. It's free. And, you know, when I think of bee chat, I think of my little one having fun eating a marshmallow. So I'm going to sort of wrap up tonight because it's 9 o'clock with this slide. You know, I mean, I think, you know, I think big, and I think, I think to fly high and to go to new heights and new limits with the club, and anything's possible. And, you know, I'm really thankful for the committee chairs and the officers and the board of directors. There's probably a key 20 or 25 people that make this club fly high, and I'm pushing it every week, you know, and I'm pushing it with Mite-A-Thon a little bit now, you know, because I think, and there's some other things coming down the pike that's going to hopefully benefit all of us in regards to education, and benefit all of us as far as recognition of Chester County really being the place where bees want to live, and they're well taken care of despite the challenges that we face with environment and hive densities. So I'm flying high, you know, on this 6 months into this still. And I appreciate, you know, everybody's effort in this. So there's my little one again, that she makes it into all the pictures flying the kite. So, you know, I don't know. I think that's all I got tonight. Again, I don't know if it's 9 o'clock. What do you think,
George? We got one more item, and that's the free conference call.
Oh, yes. You want to chat about that?
I'll just give you guys a quick chat. We pay about $50 a month, actually a little bit more than $50 a month for the Zoom, and we're limited to 100 participants. We're going to go to freeconferencecall.com, which by its name says it's free, so we'll go with that. So it's a lot cheaper than $50 a month. And we get 1,000 users or 1,000 participants on the calls. So we're going to, we'll be doing that next month's meeting, and we'll start to transition off of Zoom onto free conference call. I've been using it on and off since 2001, and it's a pretty good service.
So we want the service to work for people. So I know there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, and no, we are not poor, and that's not why we're changing, but I am trying to be a good steward of the CCBA money. And if I can get the equivalent service for free, I'm going to at least look into it. So I trust Mark will lead us in not messing this internet up.
We'll offer up a couple of times where we'll start the next meeting half hour early so that we can get any of the technical glitches worked out with people, and also offer up on the weeks coming up to it a couple of times that we'll have a test run for people just to log in and make sure they're able to do what they need to do.
And I'll post Mark's phone number on somewhere on the homepage if you have comments.
You're an evil, evil man.
And I don't answer your calls either. I am striking out today with Mark. Anyway, I think with that, it's 9 o'clock. We actually wrapped up on time. I'm sorry if we didn't answer all the questions tonight. You know, there's going to be a lot going on, so check your emails from Tina. And, you know, hopefully you all, you know, keep safe and keep keeping bees well, and we'll see you soon, okay? And if you have questions, Paul said log on to Bee Chat tomorrow night, 7 to 9, and we'll get them all answered for you.
There is one question from B. Soltis. What does 85 times 3 mean in the mite treatment display? I believe that's 85 degrees for 3 days in a row.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Not higher than.
Not higher than, correct. Excellent. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, George,
Bye.
for all your efforts.
Bye-bye.
We all appreciate it.
Thumbs up.
Sounds-
Night.
Take care.
Sorry, Mark.